Business 242 students, welcome back. Professor John here.
Oh, it's just taking a second through it. Now you're good.
Business 242 students, Professor John here, and welcome back. Well, I want to get into a couple of lectures today on some chapters that are outstanding on your syllabus. The good news is that we have covered much of what's included in those chapters previously. But there are a couple of chapters that I do want to work over some overheads with you. And then I want to talk about some of the other chapters that are also on your syllabus that I think are important. And I have some remarks I want to make about those too. You're going to need your study guide. Your study guide is going to be extremely important, especially in the chapter involving motivation. But in the motivation chapter, we pretty much have discussed much of that already as well. I'm going to post a syllabus online, a modified syllabus online. And in that syllabus, there'll be specific directions, what chapters I want you to read, what case studies I want you to do, and when you're going to submit them. We'll also establish the examination date. Now, like I said, I'm not interested in being hard, not interested in being difficult. I don't want to make these last 4 weeks very onerous. I really don't want to do that at all, and I'm not going to. We're going to get through this together. And it's still going to be a very excellent learning experience for you. So, are you ready? Well, if you're ready, let's go. And again, unfortunately, I don't have any donuts, and I don't have any Tootsie Roll Pops. We'll just have to make do.
Already.
Folks, I want to talk a bit about Chapter 11. In Chapter 11, your author, Kanicki, goes into the self-fulfilling prophecy. We discussed this before, and it also is included in your study guide as well. I think the self-fulfilling prophecy has a great deal of validity. And the fact of the matter is, and I mentioned this, when I come into a classroom situation and it's a rainy day outside and, we all have issues we're dealing with in our lives. And I walked into the class and I said, here it is. We have a class today. It's a rainy day out there. The weather's absolutely miserable. I have a lot to do. I know you have a lot to do. And I know none of us really want to be here, but here we are. And so how would that impact on your performance? How would it impact on your interest in learning what I have to say or involved in class discussions? It would have a tremendously negative impact. If I wasn't interested, if I didn't want to be here, well, then why would you want to be here either? So the self-fulfilling prophecy has a great deal of usefulness, I think. When you approach a leadership situation, your attitude, the attitude that you bring to that situation, well, it's contagious, either negatively or positively, but it's contagious. Your attitude is contagious by many things. Your expression, your stance, what you say, what you don't say. You have a responsibility when you go into a leadership situation to understand that you're trying to convey positivity to your folks. We're not talking about being Mary Poppins. We're talking about going in and saying, well, we have some challenges today. We have some objectives we have to accomplish. You have some objectives you have to accomplish. I have some important goals attached to those objectives that you're working on. We're going to work together. We're going to get this done. We're going to accomplish this. And I'm going to be right with you. I'm going to be assisting you. We are going to do this together as a team like we always have. And then I want to talk about job satisfaction. Job satisfaction, we talked about this as well. The extent to which you feel positive or negatively about various aspects of your work depends on how you feel about several components such as work, pay, promotion, co-workers, and supervision. There are intrinsic and extrinsic satisfiers and dissatisfiers. When you look at it, when you get into the research, it will indicate, and again, your own experience as well, not just to mention theoretical research. The issue is when you approach a situation and you are, any job situation, there are always content variables, the job itself, the work itself. You really enjoy the work itself, but then there are some context variables that you don't like. You don't like the team leader you're reporting to. You don't like the culture of the organization. You don't like the way the organization treats people. You don't like the way the organization conducts its business. Content variables, like the work itself, can be very, very motivating. I mean, again, I do this job because I like it. I love doing this job. I love the classroom experience. I love interacting with all of you. On the other hand, there are some context factors involved in this job, that is being a college professor, that I don't particularly like. So, you know, life is certainly full of the sweet and the sour, the yin and the yang, as they say. So when we look at the satisfaction, job satisfaction, we tend to be satisfied with the work itself. And we tend to be dissatisfied with context variables like those that I mentioned. Now, you also have to assume responsibility for your career. And if you're in a situation where you like the type of work that you're doing, but in the context of that work, there are aspects of the context that you don't like. Again, the environment in which you're working, company policy and administration, you don't really care for the boss you're working for, but then you always have the opportunity to take control of your career and to seek other opportunities. Job satisfaction is extremely important. I stayed at Augsburg College for one reason, well, for two good reasons. One, I like the type of students that we have here. I enjoy working and teaching and being part of all of you in a live classroom situation. But secondly, I identify with the mission of Augsburg College. That's why I stayed here for 37 years. Mr. Producer, we're ready for the next one. Organizational commitment, and I think this is an important point, reflects the extent to which an employee identifies with an organization and its commitments to goal. Now, I just said previously that one of the reasons why I stayed at Augsburg College for 37 years, besides the privilege of working with you and teaching you in a classroom setting, besides that, is that I identify with the mission of Augsburg College. Augsburg College is affiliated with the ELCA, Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. It's part of who we are, it's part of our tradition. I've had the opportunity. I've taught at the University of Minnesota, University of Wisconsin, and at St. Thomas. Even though I happen to be a Roman Catholic, I've always felt especially at home here. I've always felt very, very welcoming here. I've always felt part of the fabric of Augsburg College. I think that has a lot to do with the openness of Augsburg College and its religious traditions and its cultural and social traditions. If you take a look at our mission, we have made a commitment to diversity. We've made a commitment to academic excellence. We've made a commitment to treating people with dignity and with respect. That is, all who are part of this community that we call Augsburg. That's organizational commitment. I want to talk about workplace behaviors. There's a maturation that takes place. I have to say that when I observe students when they first start here as first-year students, and then watch them as they move through Augsburg College and finally as seniors, there is a tremendous maturation that takes place. And generally, as you move through the cycle of life, there's a maturation that takes place. I know that it certainly has impacted me. I've matured as the years have progressed. But there are some behaviors in the workplace that you certainly have to be aware of. And I think you know this. One, performance and productivity. They're going to evaluate your performance. It doesn't make any difference if you're in a for-profit or nonprofit organization. Absenteeism and turnover, organizational leadership behaviors. That is that you interact. You know, we've talked about this before. It would be nice if we all loved each other. It would be nice if we were all friends with each other. But at the very least, you have to treat the people you work with dignity and respect at all times. Whether or not you agree or disagree, we are committed to working with each other and treating each other respectfully. And there are counterproductive work behaviors. And those are, of course, we're unable to work with people. We're unable to work with authority figures. I mentioned to you before that I listed as a reference for students. Many times students will list me as a reference, and I'll get calls from employees. I'm always happy to be a reference for students. The same questions they ask me over and over again. I can always tell when it's a skilled HR person calling for a reference. You apply for a job with Cargill, for example, or 3M, or the Guthrie Theater, or something, and you list me as a reference. And that HR person will call and say, can you comment on the performance of your former student? Yes, I can. I'm very familiar with the students and their work habits. The fact of the matter is they submitted work in a timely manner, and the work was always acceptable quality. In fact, it was always well done. Absenteeism turnover. I mentioned to you this before. No, there were no issues with absenteeism. They were there for every class period, and there was absolutely no issue with tardiness. What about how do they interact with others in diverse groups? Well, they interacted very well with others in diverse groups. We have a very, very diverse population at our campus, which is a tremendous benefit. And I have observed a former student interacting in groups, and they interact very, very, very well in diverse situations. Work very, very well with their fellow students. No issues whatsoever with respect to relating to authority figures. Nothing like that at all. Always had a very, very good rapport. And from my perspective, I always had a very good rapport with the student. They had a good rapport with me, and they certainly respected authority figures. Look, you need to know this. You need to understand this. What that HR person is trying to get to is, are there some issues with performance, absenteeism, ability to work with others, authority figures? Is there something out there that is a problem with the student or with a problem with this potential employee? That's what they want to know. They don't want to buy into a problem. They don't want to buy into a problem. When you begin your work career, your vocational journey, remember, you want to focus on performance. You want to show them what you can do. You're not interested in absenteeism or turnover. It's a problem. It is a major problem. Absenteeism is a problem. If it happens, you're on the downward track. Don't do it. We all get sick. We all have issues, and I do as well as you do. But you come to the office and you perform as best you can. Now, if you're really sick, you want to stay home and don't spread the germs, and make sure your boss knows that. You're interested in getting along with folks. It'd be nice if we loved each other. It'd be nice if we were all friends. None of that might be possible, but what is possible is that we treat each other with respect and with dignity. Counterproductive work behaviors, I think you know what they are. It's inability to work with people. It's inability to work with people that you report to. It's using inappropriate language. It's using language that has a sexual overtones, or trying to create a negative work environment. And we've talked about this before, especially with respect to harassment. And so these are behaviors that I want you to be aware of. These behaviors will influence your longevity and your success in your organization. I do want to make another comment about diversity, and I made several comments about this along the way. And I want to point out to you that in our money, in our currency, it says e pluribus unum, one out of many, one out of many. America has always been a country that had tremendous diversity, tremendous diversity. All of us really are immigrants or descendants from immigrants. That is, those of us who were Native American, you weren't immigrants, you were born here. And those of us who were Afro-American, well, you were brought here at a time against your will. But we are one country. You will never find as much diversity in a classroom. You will never find it like what we have at Augsburg College. I taught at the University of Management in Moscow, Catholic University of Lublin, Poland, Pembroke College at Oxford. Some of the very, very premier universities, especially Oxford, Pembroke. Nothing like diversity that we have here at Augsburg College. Look at diversity as an opportunity to interact and work with other people. Because we all come from different backgrounds, different social backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, we tend to approach issues from different perspectives. That's a strength. That's a strength. We can learn from each other. We can work with each other. We can respect each other. And we can come up with solutions that are innovative and are creative if we're willing to listen to those who are different from we are. E pluribus unum. We are one out of many. I want to discuss some aspects of some points with respect to chapter 14 and talk about, Nikki goes over the 5 levels of power: legitimate power, reward, coercive, expert, reference, etc. When you're a team leader, you begin your career, you have legitimate power. You have a team. You're responsible for giving that team work direction. You're responsible for their performance. They accomplish their objectives, you will accomplish your goals. Having said that, your team members know you have legitimate power as well. They know that you are, quote unquote, the boss, so there's no need to wear that on your sleeve. You also have reward power. It's extremely important. You know, we're interested in recognizing good performance and rewarding good performance. If you want to perpetuate good performance, you have to recognize good performance and you have to reward good performance. We talked about a manager X and a manager Y. A manager X does tend to wear that legitimate power on their sleeve and let everybody know they're the boss. It isn't necessary. They know you're the boss. They already know you're a boss. Manager Y will use reward power and will say, okay, you know, we have an opportunity to get this done. I know for a fact that if we accomplish our objectives, I accomplish my goals, I think there might be some bonuses down the road. Now, I don't want to promise it, but I did talk to my boss about it. Or at the very least, I think that we can have a celebration down the road. We're a good team. We're going to work together. And we're interested in encouraging good performance. I don't want you to be a good performer because you're threatened with getting fired. That's not it. I want you to be a good performer because I want you to know that I appreciate the work that you do. And if you do your work, I'm going to succeed as well. We're all going to succeed. So let's work together. Coercive power. Well, management certainly has authority to punish employees. I've seen team leaders dismiss team members before. I've never had to do that, but I've seen team leaders do that. And I don't want to take a Disneyland approach to this. The fact is, along the way, you may be in a situation where you have a team member that's just not working out well. Kinnicky talks about this in the chapter on human resources, which we covered prior to a break. And in that regard, what I said was this. You have an employee who's not performing well. You've gone through coaching. You've worked with that employee one-on-one. You've helped to identify what the issues are, the work-related issues. You've tried to identify what those issues are. You've developed a plan of action with the employee, and it just hasn't worked out. And as a consequence, you're in a position now where you're recommending that this employee be exited from the organization. There's a way that that's handled. If you exit an employee, You have to terminate an employee. You have to remember, this may not be the employee's fault. Their performance problems may have less to do with them and more to do with you. Maybe you didn't give specific directions. Maybe you weren't as supportive as you could have been. Maybe they agreed to objectives they couldn't possibly accomplish, so they set themselves up for failure and you helped. Almost all organizations have an exit policy. It's usually handled by a human resource officer, along with the operating manager. You're the one who's actually terminated this employee, and you have an obligation to show up and be there when the employee is terminated with that HR officer. Now, we want to explain to the employee that this is not necessarily their fault. This is probably a situation where they were in the wrong job, and they could not take advantage of their skills and abilities. And probably in another work situation, or perhaps in some other job situation, they'll probably be very, very successful. And we want to say that to the employee. We also want to say to the employee that, we have has an exit. We are going to certainly pay you through the month, and and companies vary on this, organizations vary on this. Typically, we're going to pay you we're going to pay you a week's salary for every year that you've worked. So if you've been here 5 years, you're entitled to 5 weeks severance, including all of your vacation pay that's been accumulated. Also know you can use this as a reference. We'd be happy to provide a reference for you. As your operating manager, I'd be happy to provide a good reference for you. You should go down and collect unemployment right away. We also will help you in HR. HR will help you redo a resume and help you conduct the job search. Again, no one likes to see an employee terminated. That is, no one who's a real human being wants to see somebody terminated. It happens in organizations. Luckily, it hasn't happened on my work or teams that I've been associated with, but it does happen. Going back just a step, you're interested in working with an employee who's having work-related issues. Those you can deal with. Time management issues, can't work well with others. We can try to work through that. And I mentioned this previously as well. You may have a team member who says, well, I'm having problems, and it has to do with chemical dependency. This just happened recently. Or I'm going through a divorce. Or having troubles at home. You're not a counselor. You're not a therapist. At that point in time, when the employee confides in you that they're having an issue that is not work-related, then you have an obligation to refer that employee to human resources. And almost all companies have an officer who is an assistant, an EAP, Employee Assistance Program. Employee Assistance Program, and they have an HR officer that's dedicated to working with employees who have issues like that. And if we don't have in-house facilities, then they'll be referred to people outside of the organization. And the company, of course, will pay for it. So just remember, we can focus on job-related issues. We can't focus on issues in which we have no training and no business getting into. Chemical dependency issues or marital problems. Expert power, well, I said this to you before. You have a team you're responsible for. There's 5 FTE on that team. Each one of them works at a specific workstation. And they probably have worked at their workstation longer than you have been a team leader. And so the idea, of course, is to tap into their knowledge. No one knows more about a particular job than the person who actually performs work at that job. And then reference power, well, I think you want to communicate to your people, we'll talk about this a bit later, that you have a vision. And that your vision is that we as a department, or we as a unit, we as a team, we're going to succeed. We're going to show the way. We're going to be the best team in this department. We're going to get along with everybody, but we're going to be the best. We're going to prove we're the best. Research has shown the following: rational persuasion, consultation, collaboration, and inspiration appeals are the most effective. Like I said, you have people who are on your team, who've been on that team, maybe working in that particular job for longer than you've been at the company. And what you want to do, of course, is that you want to consult with them. You want to collaborate with them. You want to work with them. You want to tell them that the truth, that their job is an important job, and you need them to perform well. And what can I do to help you do that? Rational persuasion, consultation. We have a series of goals we have to accomplish. Some of these goals reflect in your area. I want to get some feedback from you on what you think is realistic. What do you think is real? Objectives goals, you've got a part of that. You've got some objectives you're responsible for. What I want to get from you is that, what do you think? Is it realistic? Can you accomplish those goals within the time frame required? Is there some sort of help that you need? What can I do to help? How can we work through this together? And you got to be real. What you see is what you get. I'm not pretending to be anybody else but what I am. And neither are you. Be yourself. Be kind. Be open. Be someone who is interested in seeing your people succeed. Demonstrate that you have a personal interest in them, that you want to see them succeed. You want to see them get good evaluations. You want to see them get good performance evaluations. Because in most organizations, performance evaluations are tied to pay increases and bonuses. And in many organizations, good performance evaluations are tied to promotion within the organization. Being phony, people can spot a phony a mile away. We're not interested in throwing a lot of coupons around and look, you're really terrific, you're the best I've ever seen. That doesn't make any sense. We want to be authentic, we want to be real. There's nothing wrong with saying to folks, I do this all the time, or I did do it all the time, I appreciate the work that you do. Thank you very much. You've done a very, very good job. I know you're working. I know you're into some problems. I understand that. I was with you. I saw it. And let's work out. Let's let you and I figure out how to get through these obstacles. I know you're going to do it. I know you're working. That's the most effective way to deal with employees with respect to power and outcome. This will be 17. Hold on. Folks, as you know, I'm a big advocate of servant leadership. Everybody walks in their own history. We all do. We reflect our backgrounds, reflect our experiences in life. I mentioned to you before that I was a sergeant in the Army. I did a tour of duty in Vietnam. And I learned early on the value of servant leadership. And that is that you take care of the people that report to you. You take care of the people that you're responsible for. You're their leader, you're also their servant. I think I showed you a clip from a book by Simon Sinek, Leaders Eat Last. And he was pointing out that he used the example of the Marine Corps, and I was in the Army, but he used an example of the Marine Corps, where Marine Corps officers are at the end of the chow line. It is the enlisted people, the privates, and the non-commissioned officers, they go through first. They go through first, and the officers eat last. I learned that you make sure that your people are taken care of, that food, water, a place to bunk down, before you do any of that yourself. You are a servant. You are a servant. It's a very, very effective way to lead people. Not what can I do for me, what can I do for you? Got some objectives that you're responsible for. I know you're working hard, but I'm here to help. I'm not going to do your work for you, but I'm a coach. Focus on listening. Empathizing with others' feelings. Focus on healing suffering. I know you're going through a bad time. I can see it. I can see it in your expression. You're going through a difficult time at home. I'm not equipped to handle those situations, but trust me. Trust me. I'm going to refer you to somebody who can. We have an EAP officer in our company, and I'm going to refer you to them. If they can't help, the company will send you outside of our organization to find you help. But you're going to get through this, and the company will stand with you. I'll stand with you. Well, it's the use of persuasion rather than positional authority. Like I said, you have legitimate power. There's no question about that. But it's more effective if you take that legitimate power and you put it in the back and you focus on persuasion. You focus on persuasion. We can do this together. Well, how can I help? What can we do? There's a different mentality. An ex-manager will always use authority. Well, I'm the boss and you're not. That's a prescription for absolute disaster. And those who are the recipients of I'm the boss and you're not, it builds up tremendous resentment. Ability to perceive future outcomes. I really think that if we accomplish this, we're going to be very, very successful. I really think that once this is done, our team will show to be one of the best teams in the company. And build a community from outside the organization. I volunteer. I've been volunteering for 6 years at the VA hospital in Minneapolis. And I appreciate my time that I spent there. I have been volunteering for 6 years, always on a Friday afternoon. Those are my volunteer hours. And I think that you want to look for opportunities outside of the organization where you can serve others. It doesn't have to be at a VA hospital. It can be with a food shelf. It can be with Habitat for Humanity. There are a lot of ways for you to be of service to others. It should be 31 or 32. Folks, the chapter, that is chapter 14, deals with the issue of transformational leadership. And of course, there are some great examples of transformational leaders in our society. We certainly can point to Nelson Mandela. We certainly can point to Martin Luther King. And note that Martin Luther King, in his great speech, I Have a Dream, he didn't say that I had a plan. He said I had a dream. And that sort of transcends a plan. Leaders are influenced by individual characteristics of organizational cultures. Employees are encouraged to pursue organizational goals over self-interest. That is a leader that can inspire, that can encourage people to be bigger than they are, to achieve greatness that they never thought was possible. Typically, it comes to the very, very top of the organization. It comes from a leader who is going to transform the organization into something that you could only imagine. The point is that what a leader has to do is convince you that their dream is worthwhile. And in his famous I Have a Dream speech, Martin Luther King was able to do that. So we're going to switch to 32. My producer will shoot that right away. Inspirational leadership, idealized influence, individual consideration, intellectual stimulus. Inspiration, motivation. Let me share a vision that transcends us all. The leader will say to the organization, let me give you a vision for this company that is going, for this organization, that's going to move us into the future, that's going to put us in a position where we as a company will achieve greatness. And you, as a member of this organization, you're going to come right along with us. And we're going to allow you to achieve greatness along with us. And I also want to say, too, that transformational leadership, transformational leaders tend to be few and far in between, but certainly Martin Luther King is an excellent example of it. Make sure you read that chapter on leadership is important. Wrap this up right now. Folks, I just wanted to especially call your attention to your study guide. Now, as you know, I do draw a lot of questions on the exam from your study guide, especially 24 to 25 deals with leadership. And I think the study guide, well, it strains out. It sort of encapsulates what I think the importance with the important dimensions of leadership. And I certainly want you to go through that. And then the on 27, well, let me back up. Let me just say that 24 and 25 deal with leadership. 26 deals with career development, and then motivation on 27. Now, we've been over much of this in class before, but it deals with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We talked about it, we've discussed it. I want you to read that again, because I will draw a question from it. And also Hertzberg, Frederick Hertzberg, and his contributions, identifying job satisfiers and job dissatisfiers. So let's make sure that we read the rest of the chapter on motivation. Your study guide on motivation. Read the chapter on leadership. I'm not going to get into teams again. We pretty much covered that. We talked about teams. I showed the video involving Remember the Titans. I showed you the video involving the inspirational leadership of the Miracle on Ice 1980 hockey team, Olympic hockey team. We've done that. And I've been over the advantages and disadvantages of groups. And so too, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on 13, which is groups and teams. We've already covered that pretty much. We've talked about what makes the groups effective, and we also talked about groupthink. We've had some good examples of groups and team building. We saw the video, Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. We also saw the video, Miracle on Ice, 1980 Olympic team, and we've had other examples in class as well. We know that a major problem, like I mentioned with groups, is a phenomena of groupthink. Nominal group technique is one of the best ways to correct groupthink. And I'm very, very interested in you being able to discuss that maybe later on in the exam. Okay, well, this is Professor John. I'm going to sign off for now. My producer is getting anxious to go, but your syllabus again will be posted on YouTube. I will post it soon, and then I'll also talk about ways we're going to end the class. We only have 4 weeks left. Thanks, folks. Stay with me. Be patient.